Last round, the drivers would have had the chance to sample some sweet Italian wine, but now we'll get the California equivalent with beautiful Sonoma Raceway. Of course, the viewers can enjoy looking over the rolling hills of the West Coast as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Porsche Owners Club Series. You'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sonoma has gone through various hands and various names, but as our track guide shows, the challenge for the drivers remains. Welcome to Sonoma Raceway, one of California's most famous road courses. It resides just north of San Francisco. It's been host to a wide variety of styles of racing, including sports cars, Indy cars, motorcycles, and even drag racing. But in recent decades, it's become most well known for holding one of NASCAR's rare road course weekends. For most tracks, this cornucopia would be a stretch, but considering the array of 5 different layouts to choose from, it's quite easy for the circuit to be adapted to any series needs. Most of the layouts clock in at around 2 to 2.5 miles in length and always feature an impressive amount of elevation change. This means many of the corners present the driver with a blind entry or apex. Some of these have a very distinct visual look, making them instantly recognizable. Corners such as the chute and the final hairpin feature street course-like walls surrounding the track, while the carousel is both picturesque and challenging. With few long straights, passing is often considered very difficult, but it rarely leaves races with a lack of action. Mistakes can be easy to make, offering opportunities for the brave. And it's not just the track itself which is tough. The pit entry's narrow path requires precise driving for those looking to make up time and leapfrog their competitors during stops. With more than 40 years of racing under its belt, Sonoma has become a staple for West Coast race fans. And what could be better than a glass of vino on a sunny hillside while the sound of engines echo around you? Definitely a classic on the North American scene, Joey. This is a track that's seen all types of racing.
Yeah, and I've raced a lot of different race cars on this surface as well. Sonoma Raceway, Sears Point, whatever you want to call it, located out there in wine country, Northern California. First opened in the late 60s. 2.53 miles and 12 turns is the layout that we are going to be racing as, commonly known as, the full layout, whatever you really want to call it. It's not the NASCAR shortened circuit. It's not the IRL shortened circuit. It uses all of the elevation here. And speaking of elevation, turns 1 and 2, it is a very, very steep uphill. It can be easy to miss your brake marker there at turn number 2. And then the carousel, turn number 6, that big old U-turn in the middle of the racetrack. That is a steep downhill section, and it is not smooth on entry, so you can easily upset the platform of the car, which is exactly what you don't want to do, leading it yourself down into that passing zone. Turn number 7, that hairpin down there. After that, it's just putting the power down and pretty much single file through the S's. Turn number 10 can be a doozy of a corner, very, very fast going in, but you got to keep it on the racetrack coming out. And then turn number 11, the final hairpin down there, always a good passing opportunity, especially on the last lap.
See if anybody's able to utilize it. But first, we do want to give a quick shout to our sponsors, which includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Contact them today at TopGunMG.com. That is TopGunMG.com. So into the championship we go. And up at the top of our GTE or GT1 standings, as they officially call them here, BJ Fulton leading the way without a win so far. 3 second places in the last 3 races, and that's out of 4 rounds run. He's very consistent. Shinichi, though, with 2 wins, and he is back here today, and he's looking quite fast, so he could be a serious threat. Nice little tie between Heindel and Duncan, though, for 4th and 5th as well. And then Michael Johnson, unfortunately, won't be taking part in the championship anymore, so we'll see him continue to slip down the order as one of his proteges, Michael Bolton, up to 7th so far, only 18 points off the lead. It's still quite tight up at the front of the field. What about in the GT4 standings, Joey?
Yeah, GT4 class standings currently led by Federico Del Toro. He's got 54 points, and it's 11 points ahead of Christopher Marciniak. And then things definitely tighten up. Only 3 points between Christopher and Sam Mayorga, but you see Sam tied for third with Rob Russell. We'll see if Mayorga is back out on the track here this week. I know he was absent the last week. Then we got Larry Haas back here in 5th place, John Momeyer in 6th, Daniel Vaverko 7th, Adam Abrams 8th, Matt Hollander 9th, and James Baxter rounding out the top 10 in that GT4 class.
Now, if you haven't watched this series, we've got our standard fare for tonight's races. It's only going to be a 40-minute sprint for round 5. There's our 2 classes. The GTEs are that GT1 class that we mentioned, and then, of course, the GT4s, the Caymans that are racing at the same time, having to share the track. They have 2 spare cars in this series, and this is a track that tends to eat up cars if you have mistakes, as the walls are close, so they might need them, even though it is only a 40-minute race. Hold on to those just in case. There will be a pit stop scheduled during the race as well, so watch out for that, as the pit entry here is a bit unique, Joey, and the pit limiter does not have to go on until well after you go around that corner.
You're right, and I actually kind of think of it like Circuit Villeneuve, right, up there in Canada, where you kind of enter pit lane off of that very, very long straightaway. A similar deal here at Sonoma, except like you were pointing out, you go around that long hairpin and you don't have to put on that pit lane speed limiter. So it's kind of a tale of 2 edges, right? How fast can you go around the very, very narrow concrete wall pit entry section? Or do you just kind of tiptoe your way through and potentially lose track position?
And with the single pit stop that we're expecting drivers to have to make, that could make a difference, especially considering how tough it is to try and overtake at this circuit. 2 minutes left in our qualifying. Jad Duncan currently the fastest in the GTEs. And then Federico Del Toro has taken over the pole from Matt Hollander, who was on that provisional pole for quite some time in this qualifying session. He's had to come back out on the track to try and steal that one back.
Here's a good shot of Federico here in his gray Cayman GT4 class car with the red highlights, the red wheels on this thing. And Federico's been doing very, very good, just constantly learning every single race week that POC is out here doing these races. Didn't have the best time over in Italy a couple weeks back, but he's looking to American soil here to kind of turn things back around.
Well, seems like he's done a decent job, although it's only a 0.5 of a second over Hollander, so that could get turned back around itself. John Momeyer coming around the final corner, still yet to set a time, and it doesn't look like it's because of him missing laps here as he comes across. Yeah, he's just starting his first flyer now, so he's waited until the very end. He's only going to get this single attempt.
And thankfully, since it is the open qualifying session, you can complete that lap. Obviously, once the checkers fall, that is going to be it. You can't start a new lap, but thankfully, since he got under start-finish while it was still green flag racing, as long as there's no incident penalty points for the driver, this number 6, he'll at least put the time on the board.
Trying to see who is going to get that checkered flag first here. See Adam Abrams trying to line up a lap, but he's got to hurry. He's got 10 seconds left, and he'll run out of time if he's trying to get to that finish line here before the checkered falls. 5 seconds. I'm watching him now as we've got Russell on the screen, and I think he just made it. Yes, Abrams just got across in time.
I think that's, what do they call that? In before the lock, or maybe just sliding under the Indiana Jones sliding door. Yeah, he barely got started, but unfortunately for Adam Abrams, as we're watching Jad Duncan, he made a mistake in turn number 1, so that lap is already out the window.
Oh, go figure. Yeah, I always think of the Geordie LaForge from Star Trek rolling under the door. Jad Duncan, is he going to get the lead back from Shinichi? No, he will not. Andrew has jumped up from 3rd to 1st since I last looked, so a nice lap from the 97. Scott remains in 2nd. Duncan gets pushed down to 3rd after he was on top for quite some time. Matt Hollander is still out there. Does he have enough on this last go to try and topple Del Toro?
Let's see what he comes across the line with here. Matt Hollander, a 137.17, so it's not going to improve his lap time. He is going to be staying in second place.
That's everybody. So qualifying is over. We'll let the clock hit 0, then we'll head off to that qualifying grid in a little bit. But certainly going to be an interesting one to watch, because much like we saw last time out at Imola, like I said, Joey, this place is kind of known for passing being so difficult, but I have a feeling that's also such a tough track to race that we could see errors that will open doors.
There's the key right there, that second part of the statement. And it's such a technical racetrack with so much elevation. It's very easy to make a mistake here at Sonoma. So, yes, I agree with you. The passing opportunities are kind of limited here. There are good brake zones down at turn 7 and turn number 11, but I think it's more pressurizing that competitor if you're stuck right behind them. Force them into a mistake. Just get them off of the racing line that little bit, and then the doors will open for you.
So we don't have BJ Fulton with a lap time down, so he's going to be starting from the back. If he gets another second place, that'll be a pretty tremendous effort for him. So watch out for that storyline throughout today's race, as it looks like we're ready to go through our starting order. And as we mentioned, it is Andrew Chinichi on the pole position. Dylan Scott starts in second, with Jad Duncan in third. Dustin Heindel good enough for fourth today, followed by Michael Bolton in P5. Doug Bacchignon will be sixth, and then it'll be Mark Rondeau in seventh. To his outside, he's got Robert Leclerc, and then Jeffrey Schulem in ninth. BJ Fulton and Matt Steele did not set times after them in the GT1 class. Let's go to the GT4s now.
Federico Del Toro is your pole sitter in that gray and red number 27. Lap time of a 136.7, narrowly edging out Matt Hollander, who shares row number 1 with them. Rob Russell is going to be starting in the third place position with Christopher Marciniak in fourth. James Baxter in fifth. Larry Haas starting sixth. Adam Abrams in seventh with John Momeyer in eighth. Daniel Collins starting in ninth, and Alan Watts back here rounding out our 10-car GT4 field.
Just a little bit of an update. Unfortunately, BJ Fulton will not be racing today. He is in race control, so he won't get a second place, and that's going to hurt championship-wise as well. He will have a drop week or two. He has got a 2 right now in his drop pocket, so he's going to find himself not getting a whole lot when he starts counting those drops, with one of them having to be a 0. We can see the cars lined up in the S's here towards the end of the lap, so we'll get a short run, and then it's off to racing for 40 minutes here in the Porsche Owners Club Series.
This will be an exciting one. Turn number 1 at Sonoma is always action-packed. It's a little bit of a funnel effect, even on the entry at the very, very top of the hill. You can go side by side, no problem. It's just got to be that power down event as you kind of over crest the apex at turn number 1. So lots of mistakes can easily happen. Just going to have to wait and see how all of these Porsches make it through.
Absolutely. Let's hope all the Porsches make it through, because that's it. Yeah, turn 2 is known and has seen many professional drivers wind up off at the side of the track before they can even complete a lap. It's so tough to try and get the field up through there with it narrowing down and being hard to see what's happening if there is a wreck up in front of you over that crest. So there goes the pace car. Now giving control over to Chinichi, looking for win number 3, but it's been off and on so far this season. He'll have a bad result, then a win, then a bad result, and then a win. Will he be on course for that pattern to continue, or can he break it as he waits for the green flag? And there it is. Green flag is out. We accelerate away up towards the hill at turn 2. To his outside, Dylan Scott gonna try and hold on as best he can, get the inside into that right-hander, but no, it doesn't look like he's quite there. He'll hang behind and slot in.
And crucially, Matt Hollander was able to snag the lead away going into turn number 1 from Federico Del Toro in that Cayman GT4 class, so he is tagged on to the back of Robert Leclerc, who's in that donut machine. A little bit of a lockup here going into what is turn number 4 for the first time.
Shinichi and Scott running away a bit already from the field as we watch Bacignon stuck between the cars of Bolton and Rondeau. In fact, goes a little bit wide. There you see those top two. Scott weaving a bit just to try and see if he can get a nose in down to turn 7. Not working this time, though.
Let's see about the run through the S's, though. Remember, this is still lap number 1, so the tires still getting up to temperature, still getting up to pressures. Drivers kind of approach this first lap at a couple different paces, and right now Shinichi is leading the way, but Dylan Scott definitely right up on that bumper.
Oh, and 4 wheels off coming through turn 10. Bit of a lucky escape for Dylan Scott. Usually that can spell disaster behind them. Very wide from Jad Duncan. Doesn't lose the spot to Dustin Heindel. He's on the attack, though, now that he knows he's got him shaken.
Definitely a couple little bit of mistakes there between turn number 10 and turn number 11 for those second and third place cars. You had made the comment, Dylan Scott way wide and Jad Duncan pretty deep up the hill into turn number 2. That's definitely going to cost him some exit speed as well.
We watch them work their way over the crest. This is into turn 4. Battle for the lead. Shinichi over Scott. Pulls away a little bit as they come back down into turn 5. Then it'll switch into 6. And a critical corner on the lap, Joey.
It really is. Turn number 6, the carousel, whatever you want to call it, you got to nail it because it leads you out onto the drag strip here, headed down towards this good brake zone of turn number 7. But it's actually the entry of turn number 6 that is always so tricky. You come up and over a crest. It is very bumpy on turn-in, so easy to kind of screw up the first half of the corner.
Dylan's doing a fantastic job here. He is really putting the pressure onto the 97 in these early laps to keep him honest, all while they are continuing to run away. Look at the gap they've got over Jad Duncan. Meanwhile, got a nice little battle here between Adam Abrams on the inside of James Baxter. That's going to slot him into 4th.
A good out-braking move down into turn number 7 is what it looked like. So that red Cayman number 704 is up into 4th place. He's going to go try to chase down Christopher Marciniak, who's right behind him. Let's see what happened to Rob Russell here in this white and black number 3 car. Oh, really loose. I'm going to guess that was probably the opening lap and hard contact into that concrete wall on driver's left side. Turn number 10 is fast.
It is scary, and you're right, that was on lap 1 for him. He's since come in, taken his spare car, gotten back out. Unfortunately, that won't be within the pit window, so he's going to have to come down pit lane a second time over the course of this race. Michael Bolton sitting in 5th. He's got Dustin Heindel just in front of him after Dustin had a whiff of 3rd from Jad. Jad's been running away and really setting his sights forward behind them. You can see Rondeau getting a little bit deep into turn 6. They all swing through turn 7. Different apexes for each of the cars. Both of them wide at the second one.
And crucially, I think it was Baccignoni here in that green car that was able to put the power down a little bit better. You see him kind of accelerate down through the S's section. But this is coming up to turn 10. This is where we've seen all of those problems. Looks like Rondeau just misses the apex a little bit by about a car width, maybe 1.5 car widths. And you see Doug just kind of escape further down the road till he makes a little bit of a mistake, a little bit of a lockup there in turn number 11. It's kind of a who's who of wants to lead this pack.
Fastest lap for Andrew Chinichi in the meantime. But yeah, we've already seen a number of mistakes today and kind of illustrates just how tough it is to pass because it's rarely seemed to have promoted drivers up to higher positions. Rondeau continues to see what he can do to try and sneak by Doug, who comes over up into 4 once again and is just barely ahead. Look at how close to the bumper mark is getting here.
It seems like Rondeau, at least this lap from what I've been watching, is much more neat and tidy. That last lap, especially the last half lap, it just seemed like he couldn't find the apexes that he wanted to. And now that he's back on the racing surface, he's kind of hit that little bit of a mental reset. And sometimes as a driver, that's all you need is just a couple good corners really deep on the brakes there. Forces Doug into a little bit of a lockup. Now he's got to go up there and try to make something happen.
Wow, Doug got a phenomenal run off the corner, I guess just because he went so wide. So he made the best of it and kept himself ahead of the Hot Wheels machine. Still trying to keep up with Michael Bolton in front of them in that 5th spot as well. They don't want to lose touch with him at this stage, knowing they could get another spot. Something's happened to Larry Haas here, down into the carousel. Rear wants to come around, and Momeyer clips him in the process.
And I wouldn't doubt if Momeyer, well, he got escaped there. I was going to say, I wouldn't doubt if he had a pretty big impact with that tire wall on driver's right-hand side. With the carousel, when you have an incident like that, it's downhill. It almost seems like it's off camber, too. So when you go off on driver's right side, that tire wall approaches very quickly.
Our leader now about 1.2 seconds ahead. Del Toro hasn't had an answer to Matt Hollander, but let's look like, yeah, you can see he's still decently close here. So he's got sights on him. Just needs to tighten it up a little bit. It is only 7 minutes in, so early days of the race, and anything could happen, especially considering we haven't even touched on lap traffic yet.
And no, we haven't. And watching Matt Hollander, I just have to give a little bit of a chuckle here. I think that this is a livery that Kenny Powers would be very proud to race out there.
I was amused by that too, especially the rear of the car here. 2 times World War champs. I feel like
back World War champs.
Yeah. I feel like World War I could be contested a little bit there. I believe there's a joke about USA being sort of the guy that comes into the end of the bar fight and sucker punches someone and claims he won.
Look at this fight, though. Rondeau and Botch and Yellen. So Doug's in that bright green car. Looks like Marc Rondeau is finally able to make that pass stick. Doug is going to try to get to the inside, though. Try to get to this acceleration phase. As long as you can stick with them up the hill, you might be able to force Mark into a mistake into that brake zone.
Yeah, and that was a really unique situation. I hope we can get a replay on that because it was due to the lap traffic. So it was kind of in a zone we rarely see passes through the S's of all places. Very savvy move from Marc Rondeau. And like you said, he's still dealing with Doug in behind him. So they seem to be somewhat even on pace.
And here's the thing. When Mark was behind Doug, it certainly seemed like he was the faster of the 2 cars, but there was a lot of mistakes being made between both of these drivers. So the roles are reversed now. Is Mark going to be able to take off that he's got a clean windshield? He doesn't have to worry about that car in front of him? Or is Doug going to be back on the attack and try to pass Rondeau simply because of those mistakes I was just mentioning?
I'll have to watch and see what the lap times look like, as we'll finally at least get a little bit of a better look at what Marc Rondeau has underneath him. It's about 3 seconds up to Bolton. Here's how it happened. Yeah, there's the lap traffic with Russell after his issue earlier on, and there's just no place for him to go. Rondeau, wow, goes the long way around, down into turn 10, and comes out ahead. That was brave.
Nicely executed, for sure. Good racecraft. Kind of just saw a smidge of a door opening, and he was like, all right, that's all I need. That's all I need to try to make this thing work. And sure enough, he did. This is Adam Abrams. Remember, he made that pass just a handful of laps ago and was about 1.5 seconds or more behind Christopher Marciniak. Well, he has cut down that gap by doing laps about 0.5 seconds, if not faster, than Christopher, and he's on the door now for 3rd place.
Abrams has shown a lot of improvement since last season. Already has a podium this season, back a couple rounds ago, but hasn't been around as much. He's 1 position off that podium today, so could see twice in this season already. Watching Doug, that last lap by, it was a 27.8 for the bright green machine. The Hot Wheels car, a 27.2, so much quicker for the 11.
I'm happy we're getting some Cayman coverage here. I think that Adam Abrams does have the pace here to get up there and pass Christopher Marciniak. I'd mentioned those lap times. Last lap was 0.6 seconds faster than Christopher up front here. We're going to see what start-finish kind of brings this time. He's only about 0.5 seconds back now, and it's a little bit of a late flag up here. About 0.3 seconds faster now for Adam. So he's going to make a huge lunge into turn number 2. That was a little bit off guard there for Marciniak. I think he's still kind of feeling out that brake marker.
Yeah, clearly much quicker there. So there's a lot of that time that you were seeing him get. Oh no! Problem for Abrams. He keeps it off the wall and he's in an awkward spot and thankfully avoids being hit by the lapping GTE cars. Oh, that took my breath away. I thought he was going right back into the blind crest.
Thankfully, he did not pull it out onto the racing line. Same thing that I think Jad Duncan was very happy of right there as he was making his way by Adam Abrams coming back out onto the racetrack. But that's a great heads-up move from Adam, right? He knows he's in trouble. Don't pull it back on where you can compromise others' race. Just get on the racetrack in a safe manner.
Yeah, no need to waste one of those spare cars. You can wait just a few more seconds and get it underway. Here we go. Jad Duncan, speaking of him, he's lapping a few other cars, but he's kind of all on his lonesome in terms of his own class. 3.5 seconds up to Scott, 3 seconds back to Dustin Heindel. Not much to speak about around him right now.
Just gotta keep on swimming. We mentioned the Dory Award usually when it's kind of someone out in no man's land or if they've had a lot of problems out there and you pick up a lot at the end. Look, we still got 28 minutes left in this race. We still got the whole pit stop cycle. Sometimes you just gotta kind of eat your way through the race.
Exactly. And seems to be doing a pretty good job.
Speaking of eating, Cookie Monster, right?
I thought maybe that was an intentional reference. I was just going to let that one sit. So, but yeah, no, he's doing a very good job with that lap traffic, I think, and that's certainly going to help him, especially as this race carries on. If he can just keep making those decisive moves, he could make up the time on Scott, even if he lacks a little bit of pace in comparison. I think Doug going to get by a few more of them himself, but Larry Haas just had a problem down into the hairpin, it looks like.
Oh, that's a shame there for that number 266 car. You're right that I think Rondeau and Doug are dealing with a little bit of the Cayman lap traffic. Definitely brings Doug back into the mix a little bit. So it was Mark Rondeau that was definitely being held up earlier in the race, but thanks to that lap traffic, it has brought this green number 58 right back into that rearview mirror.
Here's what's wild about all this. So we'll talk about this second. Let's see what happened to Larry Haas. Oh no!
The infield tractor tire.
Yeah, in the real world, those can just kind of be knocked away, but in the sim, they are unfortunately very, very solid objects. Whew, that probably ripped the wheel out of his hands if he had a direct drive wheel there. What was the point I was going to make before we stopped for that? Now I've lost my train of thought.
Well, I tell you what, Matt Hollander here doing a really good job here in the first, call it 15 minutes of the race. Remember, he only qualified second, so it was actually Federico that was on pole. But ever since he got the lead on that initial start, he's opened up the gap to what is 3 seconds now. In fact, I think that Del Toro might have just had an issue there in kind of the turn number 2 complex.
Yeah, you reminded me of the point, actually, bringing up, he's got to watch out for the outside. Yeah, Duncan going to be able to make his way through. Yeah, Hollander and Del Toro have swapped positions, but most cars have not really had a lot of gains or losses. And in fact, in the GTEs, there is only one change of position of anybody, Rondeau and Bacchignon. Everybody else is where they started.
And remember, that's been the battle that we've been covering, right? Hot Wheels versus that bright green, I'm going to call it the key lime machine back there. But yeah, it's been a good battle. And speak of the devil, here they come to pass Federico Del Toro. This is the nervous moment at turn number 10. It looks like Del Toro leaves plenty of space, but it does affect Doug just a little bit. It went from about 3/4 of a second to now 1.2 seconds between himself and Mark.
I'm trying to remember who it was, but someone on the channel dubbed Doug's car the Kermit the Frog machine.
Oh, yeah, I could get what? Yeah, that'll work.
Just always with the bright green. It's easy to identify. And up ahead of him, Rondeau's definitely easy to spot too, but he's going to get held up by our GT4 leader, at least briefly, sneaking by before they get to 3A and 3B. And then up and over that hill and back down they go. Quite a bit of elevation change at this track.
Maybe a nuclear Kermit, right? It's a little bit more of
Yeah.
a bright green, a little bit of a reactor green Kermit going on there. But you had mentioned the elevation. Sonoma is one of these racetracks that has huge amounts of elevation throughout this entire place. Turns 1 and 2 probably the steepest, and then turn number 6, the carousel, as well, probably the second steepest section of the racetrack. But even through the S's right here, it looks relatively flat. But look, you go downhill just a smidge here, back up to this over crest, and then this right-hander, you actually come up and over that hill right there. So lots of different things going on with vehicle dynamics no matter where you are on this track.
Yeah, it's you definitely feel a lot more the understeer in the car through the S's because of that rise there. But so far, Doug's been handling it well. A lot of these drivers do hail from California, and most of them are on the West Coast. So for many, this could be their home track. Some, no doubt, with experience driving at the real track.
It always helps out. The more laps, the better. It doesn't matter if it's in the sim world or in the real world. The more experience you have, the faster, the more comfortable you usually are. And I will say, though, that Sonoma, Joe, you know this too. Right now, it's a little bit more green than this dusty gray we've got going on. But, yeah, real life is a little bit prettier in the spring.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Just looks gorgeous out here. And I've heard some people call for the option of different seasons for some tracks on iRacing. But as much as I'd like them, well, I feel like that's probably a way down the line thing for them.
And Joe, I mean, they got rain in iRacing now. Why can't we just water the grass out here?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, back to Doug, continuing to watch him. Let's check in, though, on Christopher Marciniak, sitting in third. There is a monster gap in front of him. Del Toro and Hollander have pulled away to more than 16 seconds ahead. And that's from second to third.
It's impressive. And really, the gap between first and second has only grown in the last 2 to 3 laps here. It used to be only about 1.5, maybe 2 seconds. And then Federico kind of got very, very generous in letting some of the GTEs by. Definitely lost a lot of track position. But then comes this driver right here, Christopher Marciniak. He's been holding it down, like you said, falling off the pace from the front two, now about 17 plus seconds behind second place. And he's actually got to watch out because that 777, you see that yellow car just in the rear view, that's James Baxter. He's about 2.3 seconds back right now. He's kind of keeping Christopher honest in terms of those lap times.
Last round was the first podium that Marciniak has had in the POC virtual series, trying to back it up with a second one, although he was P2 last time, so this would only be a P3. Still, it's hardware for him. If he can just hold on to it, James Baxter going to make him fight for it at the least. Like you said, yeah, less than 2 seconds between them. Not a comfortable gap at this moment.
Got to keep them honest, right? And even if you don't have the pace to necessarily close that gap, you keep or you should say you maintain the pace, so that way if there's any sort of mistake out of Marciniak, you just start to get a little bit closer. So just go out there and work on the consistency for the next 20 minutes. And remember, we still got those pit stops to go.
And James is definitely carrying these lap times like a burro right now, so can't he manage to cut them down anymore and catch up to Marciniak? Rondeau, who's still ahead of Doug Bocchignon, has a close moment with a GT4. Larry Haas having to gather it up. Thankfully, they do not make contact and both get away with it, but I'm sure his heart skipped a beat.
It was a little bit sketchy, wasn't it? That was up at turn 3A complex, and here's Bocchignon gonna get to the inside. Much more uneventful than when Rondeau went through. And yeah, I think it was probably a little bit closer than what it needed to be. But remember that Mark Rondeau and Doug Bocchignon have been locked in that battle. So I'm sure that Mark is of the mindset that he doesn't want to get held up at all. He doesn't want to see this green car get any closer.
Definitely not. But we haven't seen any scheduled stops, I believe, up to this point. So when are we going to get some cars in now that we've hit the halfway point? Coming into pit lane, Dustin Heindel. Is that for position, actually? No, that was a lapped car, excuse me. Yeah, I was going by Rob Russell there for a brief moment. Dustin still trying to catch back up to Jad Duncan and get onto the podium.
But since it is kind of that halfway point, typically in the POC series, there's usually two strategies that are played out. And option one is go to halfway. You've made it halfway, pit. You can easily make it the back half of the race. The other option is we get a little bit of a stack up here. Rob Russell's getting tripped up. Mark Rondeau's getting tripped up. Now Rondeau is able to make his way through. He's in that Hot Wheels car right there. But I was going to say the second option typically for this strategy is run the tank all the way till it's empty, right? That's the lightest car that you can possibly make, and a light car equals fast in terms of lap time. And then hit pit road and only fill it up with what you need to make it to the end of the race. Those are typically the two strategies we see.
So far, it seems like everybody likes the idea of the light car here because we're not seeing anybody in. Rondeau's got it down to about a second and a half up to Michael Bolton, which I believe is smaller than it was before. So either that lap traffic helped him or he has been reeling him in. While we once again take a look at Andrew Chinichi. I don't think we've even shown Chinichi since the start of the race, honestly.
He's just been cranking out laps up front. Really, really nice. That last time, a 127.2. It's really nothing to set the world on fire out there, but he's dealing with a lot of lap traffic. Remember, we just saw Rondeau get held up by a bunch of those GT4 cars, so it's more the racecraft of not being held up in certain areas. Here's Chinichi going to the outside there. Maybe lost a little bit of time, but still got about 4 seconds of buffer between him and Dylan Scott. The other thing I was going to mention real fast, Joe, is Sonoma. It does not burn a lot of fuel. You're not 100% throttle around this place a lot. I'd expect later pit stops, if anything.
That's a good point. Yeah, we should have a bit of a wider window for our drivers, so we might be waiting a while. We'll watch and see. So we continue to ride on board with Chinichi up to about 4.5 seconds over Dylan Scott at this stage, trying to claim his third win of the season out of 5 races. Missed that first round. So I guess I was a bit exaggerating earlier. It wasn't that he had a bad race in round 1. He just wasn't there to claim points. Even still, off of the final corner he goes. I'm sure he'd love to try and make more of those valuable 20-point swings.
About 16 and a half minutes remaining here, and it's got nothing out the windshield in terms of what I can see, so we're going to really see the pace that Andrew Chinichi has right now. And maybe a swap of positions here. I think Michael Bolton is falling down, or he's actually in pit lane. That's why he's going down the order. He's on that pit lane speed limiter, trundling down this quite long pit lane here.
Yeah, do not want to visit it more than the one time necessary to complete this race, or it will be costly. So he's our first to blink, and he'll give us an idea of how much time they're going to need in their pit stall for the fuel. And it looks like about 8.8 seconds for the 127. He's back out and on his way. Doug Bacchignon still making sure that Rondeau can't get away with this. That was close, coming through 5 and into 6 as he had to avoid Adam Abrams for a brief moment. Doug does get through. What's happened to Daniel Collins in the meantime through turn 2 here?
Lost it on the exit. That's the overcrest. In that TV angle, it doesn't look like much elevation other than on entry, but there's a huge overcrest at turn number 2. It usually loosens up the back end of the car, and that's exactly what happened. Just got around on Daniel over there.
Last time I went, I had a chance to get up and watch from that corner as cars went through, and it's one of the best places to watch the race from. You can see so much because it's a very high point on the track for sure. We got another taker. Is that our leader? Yeah, Matt Hollander is in. Okay, interesting.
And then just look at this traffic jam of GT4 cars. Doug Bacchignon made his way through, but that's Christopher Marciniak, John Momeyer, and James Baxter all locked in. So that red ASU car is a little bit out of position in terms of what you see on the leaderboard. Is Matt Hollander as well. I'm sorry if you called that out, but that was our Cayman GT4 leader who took his pit stop.
It was indeed, and he comes back out in fourth just because of how spread out the GT4s have been. Momeyer having a moment over 3B there.
Yeah, that was, I'd call it the Pro 2 line. He's still off there, and oh my goodness, that was another car directly behind there that kind of was duplicating that same line.
A bit unfortunate. Was that that may have been Hollander. Yeah, I think that may have been our leader that we just saw go off. So that could have been costly for him. So we continue to follow Baxter down through turn 7. That's Marciniak in front of him. That's for position, and he's closing in on him. Seems much quicker offline for Christopher through this section, and they're being caught by the former leader now that he's got his pit stop done.
An interesting position for James Baxter to be in. He knows Matt Hollander behind him is faster, so you got that pressure, that anxiety, but you're also trying to make the pass here on Marciniak, and what you don't see, Matt Hollander pretty much side by side here. He's going to square off this corner, get the launch down the front straightaway on James Baxter.
He doesn't want to be held up, but he knows this is not his fight necessarily. It was 16.2 seconds, interestingly, for Matt Hollander in the pit stop. Now, I'm not sure if that's the normal time because it is longer than before, but that's comparing apples to oranges as it's two different classes. He is going to be able to make the move. No, he's not. They're going to come together. He gets turned. He'll catch it before it goes completely around, but more lost time for the 69.
That's a shame for Matt Hollander. In my opinion, the 777 just drove smack into the left rear quarter panel after Matt Hollander had perfectly executed a clean pass. So a little bit of a bummer there for that number 69. Hopefully he doesn't have any steering damage as we're 3 wide in the carousel with those lap cars behind.
Oof. Now he's able to get by. I think that was Jad Duncan having to deal with a lot here, although Adam Abrams not fighting for position. That's Momeyer just kind of trying to run his own race, but things getting quite complicated out on the circuit. Now, I was trying to do the math. Del Toro, I believe, last time I looked, I saw him behind by about 6 seconds from Matt Hollander, but that may have changed since at the time he went in the pit stop. Even still, I wouldn't doubt that that's about 6 seconds worth of time that Hollander may have lost here.
Well, and remember, you were pointing out the 16-second pit stop. I know that the cars do have a different fuel burn rate, but it's not that dramatic. I really wonder if Matt Hollander didn't call it fill to the end of the race. Maybe he filled up the entire thing. That could be the bigger worry right now.
Yeah, if he did that, then he's surely going to get jumped by somebody. Whether or not it's Del Toro is yet to be seen. Not all the drivers have figured out the pit stop strategy in these races because remember, this is essentially the first time that they're doing them in the POC. They were always sprint races before in all the various cars that they've used other than the one-off endurance race they'll usually do each season. So Michael Bolton, Andrew Chinichi is in. There's our other leader now.
Well, and just a half a lap ago, Christopher Marciniak in the Cayman GT4s, remember, he was sitting there in that third place battle. He came in and he was stationary for 9.1 seconds. Ooh. Compare that to Hollander at 16 seconds. That might be kind of our answer right there.
That's not the answer that Hollander wanted. Yeah, I think you're right that maybe Baxter just didn't anticipate the car being to the outside, was trying to carry his normal speed.
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to beat a dead horse out here. It just the pace difference. Matt Hollander's been on it, made a clean pass, and there he is, made the pass again on James Baxter. So James will look back on it and treat it as a learning moment. That's what you have to do, and sometimes you got to raise your hand and say, my bad, and I'm sure that he did, and he'll go back and probably just learn and get better from it.
You have to remember these are club racers, essentially, so there are drivers of varying experience out here, for sure. A couple more coming in. James Baxter, one of them. being followed by Jeffrey Shulam, who runs at the tail of the GTE class. We still need Dylan Scott, Jad Duncan, and Robert Leclerc to come pit. And has something else happened to Baxter? Tries to turn in. Car to the outside. No, this is the pass. There we go. So that's how he managed to sneak through the white and yellow machine as Dylan Scott now pits in as well.
So let's kind of reset everything since we got about 9.5 minutes remaining. The only cars that have yet to hit pit lane, actually everybody's hit pit lane now, because those two that weren't on the timing and scoring are now on pit road. So Joe, just like you called, Dylan Scott and Jad Duncan taking their stops. Andrew Chinichi will regain the lead.
Leclerc just did as well. That said, oh no, Del Toro just came in. So all we need is Abrams. He's the only driver that still needs a stop, I'm pretty sure. And then Rob Russell, I think, owes this one because his stop that we see on our timing and scoring is from lap 1, essentially. Chinichi has emerged easily ahead of Dylan Scott in their pit stops. Jad Duncan remains in third, so really not much change there. What we need to watch is this battle. Matt Hollander versus Del Toro. Del Toro is taking fuel right this second.
And I just think that Hollander's easily going to be able to pass him, right? He's already up to speed. Del Toro just left the pit box, so Federico is going to be off the pit lane speed limiter right now. It's going to be a little bit closer than what I thought. Matt Hollander does get back into the lead, but only by about 2 seconds right now.
Interesting. So Hollander's speed may have saved him.
Yeah.
He seems to have made up quite a bit of time, about 2.5 seconds between he and Federico Del Toro. The 27 has just a handful of laps now to try and catch up and see if he can salvage a win from his pole position.
It's like Hollander decided to click hard mode today, right? Because, I mean, his pit stop was 7 seconds longer than Federico. Remember, he got punted in the left rear, so he had that half spin that he had to recollect from. So he was able to overcome both of those hurdles and still have a 3-second lead.
I mean, he earned that win, you could say. That it's just amazing that he's back up to the front. Del Toro's going to be kicking himself that was a missed opportunity if he can't run him down. And it doesn't look like he is. It's up to almost 3 seconds now. Hollander's on the move.
We've talked with Federico plenty post-race. Remember, he has won a lot of these races, and I always kind of remember his mindset is he's always trying to learn from all of these tracks. He doesn't necessarily have experience at all of these tracks that they go and race at, so he's always in learning mode. And then the other thing that he always points out is he doesn't want to affect anybody else's race. And Joe, I think here at Sonoma, being such a single-lane racetrack, that can easily creep up into a driver's head, not wanting to affect somebody else and slowing down your pace to get offline.
Del Toro is almost like the dude of POC, if you will.
He's Danny Trejo.
We've made that joke as well. He is, he's very laid back and very amicable, but he's quite fast when he wants to be. And unfortunately, not quite fast enough for a win today, it seems. Still a nice podium to his name, and that will continue to add up over the course of the season, which is still in its early stages on its own. So we'll see where this all plays out once we get to the last few rounds as we ride on board, and there's the distance between he and a win.
If I'm going to shine a light at the end of the tunnel here, though, is that given that there's still 5.5 minutes left, he can see the leader right now. He's only 3 seconds up the road. Federico did put himself in a position to potentially win this race. He's got to get up there in terms of his pace, but guess what? He knows he can do it. This car sat on pole, so he knows he's technically faster than Matt Hollander. Just got to put it together for a couple laps.
This is one of our closest battles right now at about 2.5 seconds. Other than that, Heindel, Bolton, and Rondeau are split by about a second or 2 seconds, respectively, between each of them. And that's for fourth place up in the GTE cars. Otherwise, everybody's kind of spread apart at this track. I feel like traffic kind of played havoc with a lot of these separations.
I'm going to lean into this GT4 battle because Federico, he was 0.6 of a second faster than Matt Hollander that lap. Remember, it was about 3.5 seconds, now down to 2.6 seconds between first and second in that class.
Wonder if he's one of those that's just simply motivated when he can see his prey in front of him, knows that he's got to turn the wick up. So we'll watch that time in these next couple laps. He's really going to have to keep eating away in big chunks like that as we watch Michael Bolton chasing on Dustin Heindel. Let's see what their laps look like in comparison. Heindel, a 27.1 as he crosses the line, and a 27.2 for Bolton. So just about a tenth slower for him.
Oh, and Bolton crucially gets held up right there. I believe that was Adam Abrams coming out of pit lane. Wasn't really doing anything wrong, but definitely kind of halted the progress of this black and yellow 127.
It's a shame. He was definitely close enough that as long as he had one good lap, or maybe if the traffic went well his way, he could try and attack. Granted, that's not saying that it couldn't come back his way from the traffic here. Even at 2 seconds apart, you could easily lose that with the wrong timing.
Well, I'm going to kind of mirror what you said about Bolton to Heindel, because look what's right behind Michael Bolton is Mark Rondeau, now only 1.4 seconds back, and Rondeau's last lap time was just a skosh faster than Bolton. So I think between these three cars, Heindel, Bolton, and Rondeau, no mistakes allowed.
Is skosh a technical term in racing circles?
It can be. It depends on if it's corner entry or corner exit.
I gotcha. Well, Rondeau and Boccione are still the only ones who have swapped positions in the entirety of the GTE class. So if Mark can get one more, he will have gained 2 spots, whereas everybody gained 0, and he can hang his hat on that one. But he's going to have to work hard to catch up to Michael Bolton in front of him, especially because he keeps catching this traffic in really awkward spots. This one a little better than before, though.
You're right. They're all tripping over these Cayman GT4s. It's just the nature of Sonoma. It can be very, very difficult to pass, and putting somebody offline can often result in them actually going off of the racetrack. So it can be a combination of probably people being too nice on the racetrack. Sometimes you just got to go out there and take it.
I didn't realize that Rob Russell was running in, I think, 4th place for a while. He just lost that to Adam Abrams because he had a spin at the beginning of the lap here. If he's still carrying on, then he must either be making really good fuel, or he will desperately need to stop at the end of this lap.
You were mentioning which car, Joe?
Russell. No, he has been in a second time.
Yeah, Rob just came in. I noticed he had just exited pit lane maybe about a lap or 2 laps ago. So he has made that other stop.
Okay, so he must have caught up he basically was running faster lap times after his spare car that he took, I guess. Because, yeah, he was up to 4th place, like I said. So he was doing such a great job until that mistake. Even still, it'll be a top 5 after he was finishing the first lap in dead last.
Just keep on swimming, right? You never know what's going to happen throughout the course of the race. And when you add the pit stop into it, it can kind of get a little bit muddy to see the whole thing. So you just got to keep on swimming till you get out the other side.
Shinichi might have another lap to go here. I think he should be able to get around to get the white flag this time by. He's got up to about 9 seconds over Dylan Scott, so he's just cruising at this stage. And as he comes down up towards the last hairpin, he can just about taste his 3rd victory.
He does have to deal with a couple more lapped cars here on this very final lap around Sonoma. But like you said, he's got plenty of buffer with that 9 seconds between himself and Dylan Scott. So doesn't need to take any risks. Just get around the cars where you can and cruise yourself to victory.
Car almost leaping out of the way there to give him some room. Every time I see Andrew's paint scheme, though, I have to do a double take because it's pretty much the exact colors of Cincinnati FC, which is our professional soccer team. Yeah, there you go. The orange, white, and blue.
Well, I don't know anything about that, Joe.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, it's probably very much a local thing. I can tell you, though, that people have very much embraced the team, even though it's pretty new in relative terms. But yeah, we're being corrected by our producer. It is football. Yes, it's football and it's soccer. It's called the football club, but we still call it soccer. Anyways, Andrew Chinichi probably cares nothing about it because it has nothing to do with that paint scheme from what it looks like, but it will have everything to do with the fact that he's about to collect a trophy here today. Up ahead of him, James Baxter, again, kind of in an awkward spot, but he has the time to burn. He holds behind him, makes the safe move down to the inside. And Andrew Chinichi will return with a win here at Sonoma, a emphatic win, nearly 10 seconds ahead of the next car.
Well executed. Nicely done. Here comes Dylan Scott, that second place car, nearly 10 seconds back, but will stand on the podium. And I think Chad Duncan here in the black and yellow is going to round out that podium in third place.
And then Matt Hollander crosses the line to take a win, his first win in 2025 for POC. Nicely done by the 69. Wound up really pulling away from Del Toro. He put a stamp on that one.
And remember how you were talking earlier in the race, the gap between second and third? I think that those front two drivers did a good job. And then Christopher Marciniak here had a alternate pit strategy, went super, super long, and then pitted very, very late. And here he is going to round out that Cayman podium. Third place goes to that number 35.
Good race today, and really shows the difficulties that Sonoma will bring drivers. Adam Abrams with a nice run here to a fourth place finish. And as we mentioned, Rob Russell, really phenomenal job to get a fifth place after it looked a little bit hopeless for him, knowing he had that extra pit stop. But testament to his pace, no doubt, for the California driver. I think that should be pretty much everybody. Yeah, Larry Haas just coming across the line. I think that's it. And means that we have a chance to go to our unofficial results for today's race. Chinichi, your victor over Dylan Scott in the end for round number 5. Chad Duncan will round out your podium finishers. And then you got Dustin Heindel in P4 and Michael Bolton in 5th. Mark Rondeau, one of the few drivers in the GTEs to change positions. Doug Boccignone, the other one, as they are 6th and 7th. Robert Leclerc, 8th, and Jeffrey Shulam, last of our GTEs in 9th.
Then over to the GT4 class. Your winner was Matt Hollander in that number 69 America Mobile. Federico Del Toro is going to finish in second place. He definitely was not 3 laps behind Matt, was only about a handful of seconds there. Christopher Marciniak finishing in third. Adam Abrams in fourth. Rob Russell, like you mentioned, a nice comeback drive up to 5th place after that early little incident there. James Baxter, 6th. Larry Haas, 7th. Daniel Collins, 8th. Mo Meyer in 9th. And then, unfortunately, Alan Watts did not participate in today's race.
Sounds like we're going to chat with our GT4 winner first, Matt Hollander, who definitely came home with a good gap behind after it looked like things maybe unraveled a little bit in the pit stop. Matt, we noticed you were in there a little bit longer. What happened that kept you in for the 16 seconds?
I think at the end of the day, I probably overfilled the car a little bit. As I was coming in at the end there, the crew chief came across and said I had 5 laps, so I probably could have done, a splash last.
Well, you made up for it. We were impressed because we thought with the longer stop and the fact that you had an issue that spun you aside as you were trying to make a pass on cars that hadn't pitted yet, we thought for sure you'd come out second place, but you emerged the lead. Were you surprised at that, or were you just hustling enough that you felt confident you could get the lead back?
I mean, I think, at the end of the day, I've driven this track so many laps in real life that, I just kind of put my head down, and I was finding that some of my fastest lap times of the race were actually coming there at the end, even as the tires were going away. So I just kept my head down, kept driving, and hope for a good outcome, and it ended up working out.
That was a fantastic outcome, and we're staying over here in North America for the next one. How do you feel about Sebring in 2 weeks' time?
I think it's gonna be very bumpy. I've got a motion rig, and I probably should start practicing so my back can get ready for it.
You might want to detune it a little bit for that, I suppose.
That might not be a bad idea.
Put up a trampoline net.
Yeah. Congratulations, regardless, Matt. That was an excellent win.
Thanks, guys.
Matt Hollander, your victor here today. And I guess that means Joey's got a chance to talk to Andrew Chinichi, who comes away with our GTE win.
Yeah, got Andrew here in the booth. Congrats on the win here at Sonoma.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It looked pretty cool, calm, and collected out front. Was it the same way for you?
After the first couple of laps, yeah, I mean, Dylan was pretty close in the beginning and putting the pressure on. The main thing, I guess, became the tires started to go off a little bit towards the end, so the car wasn't as nice to drive. Just had to kind of figure it out. But yeah, it was good.
So we saw a few little incidents between other cars and Cayman cars getting around them. Did you have any close calls out there today?
Actually, not during the race. During qualifying, I don't know, maybe there was 7 minutes to go, and I got disconnected for some reason, and to the point where it even logged me out of iRacing, which I've never had to happen before. I got back on with like 2.5 minutes left and just went out and was luckily able to put down a lap. That was about as crazy as it got. No, otherwise the Caymans were good, and yeah, I'm excited to watch the race and see what other people got into.
Well, that certainly explains. Basically, kind of snuck one in there at the end of qualifying and then drove away during the race. Very well managed out there. And was there anybody you wanted to give a shout out to?
My good friend Michael Cooper, he helped me kind of dial in a setup, and he's always been a really good practice buddy, and he's just makes me better and better. So thanks, Mike.
That was Andrew Chinichi, your winner here in the RSR, the GTE cars, driving that number 97, Joe.
Coming home behind him, it was Dylan Scott, and it was definitely interesting to watch Dylan, because it seemed like the first few laps you could hang with Andrew, and then you started to fade. What was going on inside the car? Were you starting to lose it?
I think Andrew maybe just had a few tenths. I think that's about what it was. I was messing around last night with Mr. Rondo. Him and I have a good time all the time. And I noticed that following him, if you follow too close, you wear out those front tires. So I really kind of didn't want to be too close in his draft, because I did a opening lap, wing wash, ran wide. So I kind of trying to play it smart, and then I had a computer crash. Screens went black. Everything stopped. Top of the hill, off in the dirt. At that point, I was just praying to the gods. I don't think I've had a clean race in the last 6 with the POC where my computer hasn't glitched out in some way. So I'm just happy to survive, to be honest.
Oh, wow. I don't think we caught that moment. So your screen actually blacked out in the race itself?
All screens went black, clock smash. God. Yeah, the whole thing. Effectively, the last 6 races with the POC, every time you've seen a wacky glitch, it's the computer having a glitch. So I got to figure it out. I have no idea what's wrong. So it makes it interesting. It's like a gamble. Roll the dice every time I run, hoping that everything goes well.
Wow. Oh, that makes that second place all the more impressive. I mean, are you satisfied with P2 today? Because that's a nice haul of points.
Yeah, I'm satisfied, given I had a better setup and I didn't name it properly, and I have no idea what it was. Given the setup I was running, I will take it. So yeah, it is what it is. Andrew's always going to be fast. Happy to keep him honest a little bit. Maybe would have been a little better if hadn't had that clock smash, but yeah, I'll take it. It's not a bad day in the office.
And I just realized it's your first podium this season, so congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
Dylan Scott up on the steps once again. And that was P2 in the GTEs. But for P2 in the GT4s, Joey has caught up with the dude.
Yeah, Federico Del Toro, congratulations on second place today.
Yeah, it was a good battle with Matt. I think in the beginning it was pretty close. Then when we started getting lapped, he got away quite a bit. So too bad that Rob got in an accident at the beginning. Otherwise, it would have been a really fun race.
Well, and this is a good kind of bounce back from that Imola race where nothing kind of seemed to go right for you over there. So it's got to feel good to have some momentum again.
Yeah, Imola was one to forget. I made a couple of mistakes which put me at the back of the pack. I was regaining my position, and all of a sudden I got taken out, and that was the end of it.
Well, looking forward, to kind of the rest of the year, you got any tracks circled or maybe just kind of put in a little bit more practice and see if you can start to win again?
Yeah, we'll give it a try. I mean, this is a really tough track for me. I don't know it, and I don't like it a lot. So we'll see. But I'm looking forward to good battles.
Well, great job out there on the second place. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Like I said, everybody and my wife that puts up with my practice, basically. Thank you guys. You do a great job.
That was Federico Del Toro, drives that gray and red Cayman GT4.
And that's going to wrap us up for tonight. So we want to give a thank you to our sponsors again before we go. Porsche, there is no substitute. And Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Thanks to the team today, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. As we said, in 2 weeks' time, we're heading off to Sebring. That'll be Monday, March 24th at 10 p.m. Eastern. And then later up this week, we have PT Autosport returning, so that'll be fun to watch. However, be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we will list on our website. And until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.